allowing the citizens of Monroe to hear from candidates with opposition in the upcoming November 5th election. I'm a resident of Walton County, but I do not vote in this city election. Our timekeeper tonight is the Chamber President, Terry Smiley. Candidates, when you have 30 seconds left, Terry will hold up a 30 sign for your 30-second warning, and then again a 10 for your 10-second warning. When your time is up, she will hold up a 0 sign. At that time, please finish your sentence and your time will end. Our format tonight, each candidate will have a 3-minute introduction. Following all introductions, we will ask the candidates pre-submitted questions. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each question. We will rotate the order of who answers the question first each time. Following the questions, each candidate will have a 2-minute closing, which can also be used for rebuttal if needed from another candidate's answer to the question or questions. In the November election, the district races with opposition for the city of Monroe include District 2, Myosha Crawford, the incumbent, and Clayton Mathias. District 4, Larry Bradley, the incumbent, and Kim Greenlee. District 5, Norman Garrett, the incumbent, and Stephen Peters. And District 7, Nathan Little, the incumbent, and Lisa Smith. The Chamber contacted the candidates about attending the forum tonight, and when we did, Myosha Crawford, Kim Greenlee, Norman Garrett, and Lisa Smith all indicated that they would not be attending. This afternoon, we received a call from Stephen Peters, who is sick and cannot attend. So tonight, you'll hear from three of the 8 candidates seeking election in the city of Monroe. District 2, Clayton Mathias, District 4, Larry Bradley, and District 7, Nathan Little. So let's begin. If everybody can silence their phones. All right, first we're going to hear from Mr. Little, District 7, for your opening statement.
Well, thank you. I want to thank the Chamber for hosting the forum, and thanks to all of you who are here tonight. My name is Nathan Little. I'm a lifelong resident of Walton County. I've lived in the city of Monroe for the past 45 years. I graduated from Monroe Area High School and went on to the University of Georgia. I majored in accounting, and I've been a practicing CPA for over 35 years. Prior to election to the council, I served as chairman of the Monroe Water, Light, and Gas Commission. And during my time on council, I served on all of our committees and currently serve as chairman of the Utilities Committee. I'm married, been married for 47 years to my wife, Joyce. She's a retired Walton County teacher. We have 2 adult children, Kelly and David, and a beautiful little granddaughter, Lauren, who's 3 years old. I'm a member of the First Methodist Church of Monroe, and over the years I've been actively involved in the community. I've worked with the Walton County Red Cross. I've been a past president of the Monroe Kiwanis Club, served as treasurer of the Walton County Music Guild, and currently serve as treasurer of the Charles M. Walker Foundation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. District 4, Larry Bradley.
Yes, thank you, Melissa. I also want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this tonight. And I want to thank the people that are in attendance here in the audience tonight, and those people that are also watching on TV or YouTube or Facebook. I appreciate those people that take an interest in what was going on in local government. You know, about 10 years ago, I decided I wanted to start attending some of the city council meetings and started attending on a regular basis twice a month, coming to each of the council meetings and watching and just sitting and observing and listening to what was going on, reached some conclusions. One of those conclusions was the people that serve on the council really care about the community, and they have to for what they go through. But the other thing, and I thought I was observing at that time, was that people in the community didn't get involved enough sometimes, or the people in the council didn't hear enough sometimes from the community. So I really have tried to make it an effort to see what could be done about that. I was active in the community at that time. I was served on the board for the Walton County Music Guild. I was president of the Monroe Art Guild, active in the First Baptist Church, served on the Downtown Development Authority. And I found that when you are out talking to people and involved with the community, people will tell you what's on their mind. And that's good, and we're glad to hear it. So I'm thinking, I'm hearing this, and I'm seeing what's going on. I'm thinking, well, maybe I'd like to be on this council too. So 8 years ago, I ran. People of the 4th District selected me to serve as a representative on the council, and I have since. It's been a learning experience, but it's also been one of reaching out to people and finding out what people in the community think. That's important today, possibly more than ever before, because Monroe is going through a lot of changes. We've gone through rapid growth the last few years, and we're looking to the future of what this city will look like over the next several years. So understanding what we can learn as a council and understanding what the community wants is very important. I was born in Walton County, graduate of Monroe High School, married my wife Carol almost 55 years ago, and her father was the downtown business owner for many years before his retirement. So we've had roots in the community and love the community and really care about what's going on with it. And I look forward to serving the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. District 2, Clayton Matthias.
Hey, everybody. I am going to do my best to keep this short and sweet. My wife and I moved to downtown Monroe about 2.5 years ago. We actively sought to live here. We tried for about a year prior to that. Don't have nearly as many extracurricular activities. I'm a pretty shy person. I'm not a big fan of public speaking, even though there's only like 20 of you here. It's definitely stressful. But we chose to be here because we love what Monroe is. We love the potential that this town has. We love the characteristics, the community. It's more of a neighborhood than any actual traditional subdivision neighborhood I've ever lived in. My wife and I have been married for 5 years. I'm 35 years old. We met when we lived in Atlanta, and I was going to Georgia State prior to that and ended up getting stuck in the city for about a decade. Chose more of a slow pace, more community-oriented lifestyle. That's why we moved here. We have been active in renovating a few houses around town. We'd like to see more family home ownership here. Definitely keep the characteristics of the community alive and keep it moving forward. And that's pretty much all I've got.
Thank you. For question 1, the order will be Mr. Matthias, then Mr. Bradley, then Mr. Little. First question is, what do you propose for better quality of life initiatives in Monroe, and how would you pay for these initiatives?
Well, the paying part is the challenging part. I think if current taxation for the citizens of Monroe allows certain things within the budget, then definitely those avenues could be explored. I'm not really a big fan of taxes. I don't like tax increases. I guess once the actual budget would be displayed for the fiscal year, and if there was anything that could be shuffled around to help incentivize government-funded initiatives, that would definitely be something I'd be into. I feel like it's more council's job and the city's job to allow the free market to provide better growth initiatives and so forth.
Thank you. Mr. Bradley?
Yeah, quality of life issues mean different things to different people, but I think of some of the things we've done as a city the last few years and things that are already on the plans to going forward. Things like enhancing the parks in the city to make it better for families to be able to have a place to participate with their children. Building sidewalks, you know, whether it's on South Broad, North Broad, or Spring Street that we've seen already, and other things that are going on, so people can get out and walk and enjoy their time together and spend time with their neighbors out walking. The things of enhancing and bringing in more retail shops, more restaurants, and we have more restaurants opening up, the growth of downtown and the way it's moving, all of these things add to quality of life issues. And so I'm proud of what we've done already and look forward to more going on.
Thank you. Mr. Little?
I agree with Mr. Bradley to a large degree that we have started a lot of initiatives. We are in the process of taking back over our parks. If we can do some major improvements in those areas, it will be great. The financing is the problem, that it costs money, and I think we have to look to every means of matching funding for any of the projects that we do, whether it's new sidewalks or those kind of things that allow people to get out and enjoy the community. We can balance those things out. We can use some SPOS funds that are transportation type funds. I think that it's very difficult to fund those out of our direct tax revenue. And,
Thank you. The order for question 2 will be Mr. Bradley, then Mr. Little, then Mr. Mathias. Question 2, what are your thoughts on future housing developments within the city of Monroe? Mr. Bradley.
Future housing developments, and I'm going to maybe phrase that in two ways. Of what is the development? I am very much in favor of infill building within the city of Monroe. We see what people are going now and remodeling some of the old homes. Mr. Mathias and his wife are doing one down in the Mill Village right now of remodeling an older house and bringing it up to current standards. We see that going on. We see other people that are going in and some vacant lots around the city to be able to put, quality homes, reasonably priced quality homes on the infill thing. I am very much supportive of us doing additional things there. We've done some things from zoning to promote infill building of homes and remodeling of homes. We have some subdivisions that are currently under development for major subdivisions. I don't foresee us approving additional subdivisions unless it's an unusual situation.
Thank you, Mr. Little.
Well, the infill development is a big part of what I see as the future for the city and for housing, that we need that to help maintain that sense of community. There's a saying that, we want a place to live, work, and play, and living within the city would be an important part of that. We have a lot of development going on right now. It's more in the subdivisions that are being built, and we have done some code rewrites and done some things to try to make these good quality communities that are sustainable for a long term. And I think that our codes that we have and have reworked go a long way toward our future in housing.
Thank you, Mr. Mathias.
I am a big advocate on affordable housing, especially within city limits. The attractive features of being able to walk everywhere here, shop, eat, drink, hang out with friends, family. I like the direction that the city has been taking. I would support future housing development so long as it was cohesive with what's already in place. And yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. The third question, the order will be Mr. Little, then Mr. Mathias, then Mr. Bradley. As a city, we have made great strides in redeveloping and beautifying our downtown, which has led to an increase in amenities and access to more shopping and dining, as well as raising property values. As this excitement continues in other areas of Monroe, how will you ensure that median income residents are not priced out or forced out of the market for housing throughout Monroe? If they are displaced, where do you see them moving to? Mr. Little?
Well, because it is a free marketplace, it's hard to ensure quality and what some consider a reasonably priced. We do have developments that are called median income developments that are in progress now. I think that it's just a matter of more of those being developed. We have have applied for and got some CHIP grants to do some rehabilitation in some of the more rundown areas. This is a possibility for the future. If that works out, I think that, but it is left, it's to the marketplace to a large degree. There's little other than simplifying things and making the codes, making allowances where possible in our utilities or whatever for the development of this type property.
Thank you. Mr. Matthias?
I feel like that's a pretty tough question to answer. However, I mean, property values aren't going to be all over the place. I am a realtor by trade. You're never going to be able to, I guess, have vast swings of property values based on comparables in the area. I'm sorry, I'm ruining this. I feel like there's nothing that you can really do aside from enforcing code and building standards to not price out folks. The market, it's going to regulate itself for the most part. I'm sorry, I'm bombing this question totally. I'm just going to give up. I'm sorry. Wow.
Thank you. Mr. Bradley?
I just follow Mr. Matthias and also Mr. Little. I think that market forces do drive much of what goes on, particularly in the real estate side of things. I think that some of the things that we have done already in some of the zoning and code requirements is I talked earlier about infill building, and that's going to help us. And the things that we can do to motivate developers to remodel some of the older homes and keep them, the prices reasonable. Quality standards, but reasonably priced. And I think we can strive toward that. As far as businesses are concerned, though, businesses are going to go where the market drives them. And there's not a whole lot we can do on that side of things.
Thank you. The order for question 4 will be Mr. Matthias, then Mr. Bradley, then Mr. Little. How do you think the city should hold landlords accountable to ensuring safe and sanitary housing for residents?
Hopefully I won't bomb this one. Basically making sure that any property that is going to be a rental is up to certain code standards. Heating and cooling, no leaks, working roofs, things of the sort. I feel like if we enforce the code that is already in the book or on the books, it'll pretty much take care of itself. Get rid of some of the slumlord aspect that does plague parts of the town.
Thank you. Mr. Bradley?
I think there are two parts to this. One is exactly, as Mr. Matthias mentioned, is enforcing code. We have already, in this year's budget, the council put in an additional marshal to help enforce code. So we have 2 marshals out now that are, checking out things and checking code and issuing citations when necessary to bring all the properties, to be sure all the properties stay up to code. However, that's also a situation to where sometimes things meet all the safety codes, they just may not look as good as you'd like for them to look. There's a limit to how much the city can do from a code perspective. We do have to be sure that safety issues are met and things like that. They need to be safe places for people to live. The second part of that is as we build and encourage more people to remodel and upgrade homes throughout the area, that will drift over and force some of the landlords to do a better job.
Thank you. Mr. Little?
Well, I think Mr. Bradley is right, and that as we work with our different landlords, and if we can get some to even start, it will have an effect on the whole market. It will make their properties more attractive. It'll entice other landlords to do that. I think that the only thing you can do is enforce the codes as it's shown on the books. And, we do some of that by utility inspections that go through and between tenants. So I think enforcement is the biggest thing we can do of what we have.
Thank you. Question 5, the order will be Mr. Bradley, then Mr. Little, then Mr. Matthias. In what area or areas do you think the city can improve its service to the public, and what do you propose to improve it? Mr. Bradley?
You know, we have done so much in improving services. I think the next step in improving services is going to be, you know, we want to continue the utilities that we provide to the city, and that's a real critical thing for us, to have utilities that we provide to everyone and maintain those on a good basis. I think as far as other things that we improve, we want to continue to improve the streets. We want to continue to provide sidewalks. We want to continue to provide the motivation and incentive for people to open restaurants, and other things like that. And I think that we'll pay for those through the general fund and also through grants and other solicitation of things.
Mr. Little?
It is something to constantly be aware of and work on. I do think that we have good services right now to our citizens. I think that it's a constant looking at what needs to be done. I do not pick up on a lot of complaints. I don't know of any that are out there right now. So, I mean, I think it's just something to constantly be aware of, that we're here to provide services. And as Larry said, in our utilities, that we have some of the best in the state. That's one area. I think we have a super fire department and a super police department. So I'm just open to listening.
Thank you, Mr. Matthias.
I would like to echo what Mr. Bradley and Mr. Little said. The utilities here, Public Works, police, fire, they're actually really great. As far as what we could do to improve it, I would like to see the city stay on track for its 5-year and beyond plan, and offer more walkability, more sidewalks. I like the idea that Midland may become more of a bike path, walking street rather than a drivable street. I feel like if we keep things on track with what's already in plan, it will improve in and of itself.
Thank you. The order for question 6 will be Mr. Little, then Mr. Matthias, then Mr. Bradley. How do you view your role as a city council member within the city's structure of government? Mr. Little?
Well, the city council's job is to in my opinion, to set policy and to make decisions. We have a very good staff, but we do have a committee system, so we look at what all's going on with each department. I see us just as overseers and policy makers.
Mr. Matthias?
I definitely agree with that. It's basically our job to make sure that ideas that are presented fall within line with what the city already has in plan, and basically to oversee the financial side of things as much as we could with our role.
Mr. Bradley?
I just agree. It's legislative, it's policymaking, it's being a servant. And probably one of the more important things that we do as a council is, you know, the hiring of staff. And the last few years, we have been very fortunate to be able to bring on staff here in the city, the highest quality people available in the state. And that's the biggest thing, or one of the big things that's enabled us to do what we're doing, because the staff is a high quality staff that brings ideas to the council that we can then discuss and go forward with policy.
Thank you. The order for question 7 will be Mr. Matthias, then Mr. Bradley, then Mr. Little. Please provide some examples of how you have contributed and plan to continue to contribute to the city of Monroe to make it a better place to live, work, and play. Mr. Matthias.
Well, my wife and I, we bought our current residence 2.5 years ago. We sank a lot of money into that. We're very pleased with how that turned out. We have since decided to take that and redo other houses in the community. We're working on 2 currently, so that's how we would plan to contribute to the city of Monroe. It would attract more folks to live here, more of a desirable community, and we plan to keep that going whether or not I'm on city council.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley.
Well, I was just serving on the city council, I think is a contribution to the city, but I think that is a given at this point. So go beyond that, one of the main ways of contributing to the city is through volunteerism. And that should be for anyone that looks at ways to contribute to their community, is through volunteerism. I've had the opportunity through volunteerism, as I mentioned earlier, to serve on some not-for-profit boards. I've had the opportunity to be a founding member of the Monroe Museum, which has brought history and culture awareness to the community, and so people can be aware of that. But I think that the volunteerism that I've done through non-for-profits and the involvement with many of the not-for-profits in the community is my greatest contribution.
Thank you, Mr. Little.
Mr. Bradley's correct. I believe in his statement as to the service on council. It's a way of contributing, but that is, as he said, a given. I think the volunteerism is exactly what we need to do to be involved, to keep in touch with the citizens. I personally have been a participant in many of the city's activities, whether it's trash pickup or even supporting the DDA. All of those is a support role to make those committees, which are doing a great job, a better place, making Monroe a better place.
Thank you. The order for question 8 will be Mr. Bradley, then Mr. Little, then Mr. Matthias. How will you make Monroe's growth more inclusive, racially, economically, and religiously? Mr. Bradley?
Interesting question. How to make it more inclusive of the various parts of the, I think you need to make everyone welcome. To things, but I'm running into a stumbling block of how, as a council member, you would make things more inclusive other than just welcoming people to the community. I think from a standpoint of the church, we're working with the churches to be an integral part of the community, to again, working with the not-for-profits to deal with all segments of the community and helping from that standpoint.
Thank you, Mr. Little.
Well, it is very tough. It's hard for the council to, determine religious inclusiveness or that sort of thing. I think that, economically, in our development and our growth and our trying to attract businesses, that it would be inclusive of everybody. I just really don't know otherwise.
Thank you, Mr. Matthias.
I feel like Monroe is already a very diverse place, whether that be racial or religious. Economically, I do feel like that would fall under the scope of council more so than the other two. And to do that, I basically think that would just be not putting hurdles in front of small business owners that would wish to open up a business here for the economical aspect.
Thank you. The order for the next question will be Mr. Little, then Mr. Matthias, then Mr. Bradley. Is protecting the environment a top priority for you? What are the ways to make Monroe a sustainable city and example for other small towns? Mr. Little?
Well, I think the environment is very important. I think in utilities, for example, that's one of the areas where we're a part of MEAG. MEAG is it's where we buy our power, and the thing is, they're moving to be more environmentally friendly, closing down all our coal plants. Those are the ways we participate. I think that garbage, pickup, cleanup, those kind of things, protecting our water, it's to the best that we can, and we do have to have a water supply, so, you know, we protect that, take those steps. And,
Thank you. Mr. Matthias?
Protecting the environment is a top priority, and I feel like it should be for everybody. It affects everybody. I don't know, honestly, how we could make Monroe a sustainable city more so than it already is. I feel like we've got a lot of good programs out there, recycling, trash pickup, utility providing. As far as how to make it a more sustainable city, I'm not entirely sure.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley.
We've done a lot, I think, already on helping the environment, some of the things that have been mentioned. The fact that our electric association that we actually are a member of or an owner of is going to non-coal burning, petroleum burning, non-fossil fuel electricity that will either be done primarily through nuclear with local going online now. We also have a recycling program for the city promotes. Would like for more people to participate in. We try to get the recycling done. And I think the work that we're doing in the parks over the next few years and the rail to trails and the parks cleanup and the work around those is going to make a big difference. Also make a difference from the environmental standpoint.
Thank you. The last question in the order will be Mr. Matthias, then Mr. Bradley, then Mr. Little. What are the top 3 issues for the city of Monroe, and how would you address them as a council member? Mr. Matthias?
The first one, in my opinion, would be rental properties. And I feel like we could address those with the addition of the second city marshal and enforcing code on that aspect. An issue also, I guess number 2, would be the growth aspect. And to address that, I feel like a good plan has already been laid out in front of us to keep strip mall sprawl out of city limits. Third one, I feel like this is more of a county issue than a city issue, but I feel like it still affects the city. It's dog tethering. I feel like that's something that we need to look at. And as far as how we would address that, I think that's something that needs a little bit of a conversation behind it.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley.
Yeah, I think 2 of the issues Mr. Matthias mentioned, go right to those 2. One is the housing. And I think code is one thing on improving housing, but I think the other part is the encouragement of people to help remodel and build up housing and infill housing, which will drive the market to improve the ones that are already there. The thing on the growth, this is a big issue. I think this is the biggest issue we've got coming up is growth. And where do we go in the way of growth? The first 4 years of my term were people recovering from the Great Recession. The last 4 years has been one of seeing growth after that recovery and seeing what we've done as a city. The next 4 years will determine where we stand and where we go. And with that in mind, I just want to be a part of the conversation because I don't think that's going to involve the whole community with conversation concerning any other decisions we make as far as growth is concerned.
Thank you, Mr. Little.
well, I think transportation or the infamous truck route is one of the big issues. It's been discussed for years. I think it's finally happening, which is a really good thing. It will, I think, help the downtown, the city of Monroe. And just as Mr. Bradley and Mr. Mathias both mentioned housing and the issues that we face with a lot of rental properties is something we got to deal with. I think managing growth in a responsible manner, and I think those are the big three.
Thank you. Now we'll have closing remarks. Each of you will have 2 minutes to make your closing remarks. District 2, the incumbent is Myesha Crawford. She's not present, so Mr. Mathias.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. I'd like to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity to be here also. I absolutely love Monroe and have no intentions of leaving here. And I'd like to be a part of the future of this city and ensure that we stay on the current path, and like to do as much as possible for the community, specifically members of my district, and listen to the concerns that they have and do my best to meet and exceed those needs.
Thank you. District 4, the candidates are Larry Bradley and Kim Greenlee, who is not present. Mr. Bradley?
Yeah, again, say thank you for hosting this tonight and being here, and to the people that are watching and here, thank you again for participating. The last 8 years have been a very interesting time in my life of serving on the council. It's been a great educational experience, and for someone that hadn't served yet, Mr. Mathias, if you get a chance to be on, you'll find there's a lot to learn. I think we all have as we first go on. But as we've learned, and I've watched the city grow, and I've watched us come out of the recession, and I've watched downtown fill up, and I look at what's going on in the future and all around us, and I just think there's so many challenges as far as where we go, how much we grow to and still retain the small town feel that we have and the camaraderie and the community that we live in. So I want to be a part of that conversation. For those of you that live in the 4th District, I hope you'll see fit to vote and reelect me to the council so we can have that conversation going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The candidates for District 5 are Norman Garrett, the incumbent, and Stephen Peters. Neither of them are present. District 7, the candidates are Nathan Little and Lisa Smith. Lisa Smith is not present. Mr. Little?
Thank you. Thank you to all of you for coming out tonight. I want you to know I love the city of Monroe, and I'm honored to serve as the councilman from District 7. I've truly enjoyed my service, and just as Mr. Bradley said, I have learned a lot over these years. Monroe is a wonderful small town that's really growing rapidly. We need to make sure that we manage that growth in a smart and positive way that maintains our small town feel and sense of community. I'm running for re-election to the 7th District Council seat. I want everyone to understand the 7th District. The city of Monroe has 6 districts, and District 7 is considered a super district. It counts all of the voters, all of the citizens that live in Districts 1, 2, and 3. Mr. Dickinson has the other super district, which is 4, 5, and 6. I believe that with my qualifications and experience and commitment to Monroe, that I'm a good choice for your District 7 council person, and I would appreciate your vote on November the 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the candidates, and thank you for the members of the community who attended the political candidate forum. Remember to vote on November 5th, or early voting starts October 15th.